mentioned classroom. This is probably not so much classroom. This is taking it out of the classroom, which is then closer to the actual life and so on. But then it brings with itself, of course, some problems, how to assess it, or is it a course, and then how to guide the students to do this stuff, and that it will be useful for them then, and so on, and how to guide the population to work with.
I think what you just mentioned is one of our biggest problems, because we don't have tools for assessment. We don't have anything thought of how and who could assess progress.
No.
And another thing is that, well, in this case, what would be different and maybe innovative of this type of language tool is that the student will select the material that he's interested in. So in order to foster agency, they would say, okay, I'm interested in this hobby, and I'm interested in dating, and I'm interested in this and that and that. And they would follow up language through their own path, more or less. But yes, assessment is one of our biggest issues. We don't know where to start from there.
Of course, when it's adult learners, then often it's enough that they assess themselves and they have the feeling, hey, I've learned something. So it's often not so important to have some certificate. So in that scenario,
what would be the role of assessment? Is it? It's maybe not so important to, I don't know, to know your level or to have a grade or something like that, but maybe more a question about feedback and maybe sort of assessment and I don't know how you would say, to help you sort of progress.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm thinking of my current students, and I would say that in this kind of a setting, I think they would need me for help them to find material that will fit their level of their skill level at that moment. I think, and if I could moderate some, let's say they wanna listen news in Finnish, and okay, that's pretty tough task. Finns even they don't themselves, they don't understand everything that is said. So how can a foreigner? So maybe as a teacher I could cover some topics beforehand, and then somehow this kind of a it could be a kind of a orientation base or something, and then after that they could do more safely something, listening the news or watching the news, and when they understand the content, maybe they can, on the top of that, they could make some observations on the style or the tone or the dialect or whatever. So what I'm saying here that somehow I would like to make sure that they understand the content, so they can do it at the same time, but to make the task easier for them.
Yeah.
So, or if they had a possibility to go to see some material before they go to see things.
Yeah,
on their
first
own.
to have the preparation and vocabulary and the content.
Yeah. Ideally, the user would be someone around threshold between B2 C1.
Yes.
Someone who already has, for example, maybe daily life at the office in Finnish, but cannot work properly in Finnish. Couldn't have an abstract conversation or express most abstract thoughts in Finnish because it lacks a bit more complex formation of the language.
That's right.
And but that you mentioned is actually very important, because the nature also of these tools is that they are adaptive and tailored, context tailored.
Yeah, that's right.
So in this case, adaptiveness has to do with, because it's not constructed yet, it's only a mock-up. I need to load the program just a second. But maybe through word filters we can also tickle a little with the complexity of the text. because there are programs. I'm not really thinking of finding the new black thread, because all these applications I've seen somewhere else. It's just a matter of putting them together.
Right.
So if there's already word recognition and word count, then those together could say, okay, well, maybe in this next article that you are getting into, you have this and this amount of words that are not in your dictionary, because this is part of the whole point, that you build up your own dictionaries according to your interest. So it's not in your dictionary, and you have to look it up if you want to understand. And then you have this slider that goes from selkokieli to dashi.
Yes.
And then you could progressively increase your understanding and acquire acquisition of vocabulary. And
one thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay. I was just thinking that about the news. Sometimes there are words that are in difficult form. So at least what I have done with my students is to talk about the words and also the vocabulary. I mean the grammar, like the endings of the words. So probably there would be some vocabulary and the most common or most critical endings. So it might help a lot. Like it would be like maybe like my English is so bad.
No,
I speak Spanish. So not English.
sorry. You can tell in Spanish, I can translate.
No, I don't remember what I was saying. So about
the endings of the words and
yeah, like you have probably learned them before, but when you are reading a difficult text, you think that okay, this is so difficult. I don't understand this. There are difficult words, and maybe you don't realize that actually the words are not that weird. Probably there are some forms because we have this many. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, these are mock-ups of what we think an interface design of a language tool could look like. Of course, we still have to work on design as such, but more or less to guide you through it, it would work a bit as community-based. That means that you have a certain amount of online users that are in contact with each other. You have to open a profile, which means that you start categorizing your interests. And by that, then you start receiving media from the places that you have tagged. That means Helsingin Sanomat, Yle, whichever it is that you're interested in. You have these 4 models that could be, for example, combined in between, like the area of focus and the people that you're working with at that moment. You can have sessions online, or you can have sessions on your own and then have your peers look up your stuff. You build up your own gallery, your own video gallery, let's say, in this observation model at the moment. You have a way to like track your assignments more or less, and maybe your progress as well. And this would be, for example, at some point a peer discussion on something that they uploaded that was of interest to more than one, maybe. And then the teacher would be correcting here on the fly, like grammar and spelling. And maybe also opening parentheses, like why is she correcting like this? You don't write, for example, that's spoken language, or this is very informal type of writing, or things like that. We could do it this other way. And that's for the content tailored. And the adaptiveness comes in to place, for example, here. This would be the slider, which would increase or decrease the amount of words that, but that's a very intelligent tool, so I don't know if we can develop it yet.
It's a human sort of tool.
Almost, yes. But
it's not only the vocabulary, because it's the structures in news, especially, or newspaper texts, it's the structures that get so intensive, like information intensity through the grammatical structures increases, so that makes it even maybe more difficult than just words which you can find in a dictionary.
Yeah, the technicians say that parsing in Finnish language would be something like almost impossible, but they're trying to find out the way. And well, the building of the dictionaries, I think, is something that would interest most of the students, for example, because it interests me. I have my own dictionaries on Excel, and hopefully at some point I can put them into a regular glossary. But if we could, for example, share dictionaries among peers, that would be perfect, because according to the literature review or the theoretical review that we've done, negotiating meaning is really important, as you know.
Yes.
So if it's something that we could do with peers, say, okay, I have this particular word and I added it to my dictionary and I need to define where exactly is it, maybe, and then I could share it with other of my peers. Let's say that we have a common interest, but they're not from the same field, and they know that that particular word works differently in a different context in a different field. And then I could share that meaning, and then we would be nurturing our dictionaries all together and share them. It's still a process.
Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
I don't know if you mentioned already, but for who is this mentioned?
Like the user?
Yeah, like is it for some universities or
My
schools or?
my goal would be that it's something that would be available here, for example, in universities and in companies, such as, well, a lot of big corporations do everything in English, but there are not so big corporations that still offer a lot of jobs that foreigners can't take because we're not as proficient in Finnish, that we can't write properly. And if we manage to do that, corporations like that, I think they could be interested in. The government that has to fill a foreigner quota could be interested in helping, like, level up their Finnish in their field or whatever it is that they're doing, even if it's clerical work, but that they learn how to write properly, things like that. It's also like to preserve the language in a way, because it's a growing population, and well, you need to protect the language as well. So, what I did yesterday with my students is that we worked with those little cards, trying to find, because they represent the products, the perspectives, and the practices. They're color coded, and they made somehow little storylines to which they relate, and found out some strategies to increase their knowledge on cultural. To increase their cultural information or cultural knowledge on Finnish language that help them increase their use of language or help them improve their use of language. Say that one is very passionate about media. He works in media, so he has been researching from different points of view. He has to produce documentaries, so he's very interested in, say, for example, the welfare state from a political point of view and the ideological point of view. So for him it has been a very important field of discussion with his peers, and he has increased his knowledge of terms and politic understanding and welfare understanding through the research of his own interests. So would you like to try?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So about that collaborative vocabulary building thing, I just today I had a lesson where students were teaching, their homework was to learn 5 new Finnish words that they find very interesting or important, and they had to teach. So I teach you my 5 words and you teach me 5 words. All of a sudden, I have so many words, and then in groups of 4 they shared the vocabulary. So it's kind of a similar thing that is over there. There's a kind of a tool for that.
Do they keep track? For
Yeah,
example,
they do, and they have to make sentences with they have to like put the word in a context. Of course, I don't have time to check, so I hope at least they learn few correct words or contexts where to use the word. But it's exactly the same idea than
principle.
here. Yes.
I think that's very, very useful. In my case in specific, because now I have to read a lot of papers that have to do with research and very complex language. That I mean, it's one paragraph and I have to look pretty much everything up.
Yes.
So I build my own dictionary so I can relate. And if I could share with someone, that would be fantastic. I could share the load, for example, of the same paper
That's right.
with someone. That would be, it would take a load off my back.
Yeah,
But I'm
and
the only foreigner.
Yeah, and then you can discuss the meaning, which is that when you have to say aloud something about the word or use it or explain what it means and so on, so you also learn the word at the same time. So if you discuss with someone, no matter if you discuss face to face or via some tool, then it makes you really learn the word.
Very much.
So that's really very effective way of building your vocabulary.
Yeah, and the thing that is still not revealed there is that you can add, for example, a picture.
Yes.
You are traveling with your phone and you can handle those things. Well, maybe you take a picture of something that relates to what you're talking, maybe explains the context, explains the concept
Yes.
very easily, so you add it there. And there's a visual reference to that. Because we come from the visual background, then for us it's very important to enable making meaning also through visuals, either uploading a sketch maybe, or taking a picture, yes, downloading something from the web that kind of anchors the concept better.
Sure.
So that's why the video gallery is one of our biggest tools right now. So, well, what they did is that they chose from here anything that they could find interesting. They browsed around. It doesn't matter if it's a practice, a product, or a perspective. You could use only products or you can use only perspectives or switch. The whole point is that we could find some type of learning path for the students that could enable cultural knowledge, like deep cultural knowledge, and that springboard to language. And I can show you a bit, an expert, small clip from yesterday. One of the students explaining their storyboard. Or maybe I have it moved.
Yes, and I can see that this kind of a tool, if you have a group, and you may have a course for kind of a general type of language course, and then people who are interested in, let's say, economics, they can be the group of their own, and then they can practice or collaboratively build up.
Yes, taxes. I'm an entrepreneur. Every time I get a letter from Vero, I have like a meltdown because I'm like, what does it say? I have to do something new. And I've tried.
Just a second. Okay.
Passa algo en español. Sí.
¿Perdón?
¿Pasa algo? Ah, no.
Okay.
It's like that, but
Yeah, he explained it, I guess, very well.
it's actually a story, but it's one of the things that I really was driving to the country is exactly the whole welfare equality. Starting for I didn't want to take just like a girl or something. I just like in general, and how the person. It's a contradiction because they think that this country people are very selfish and they're very individualistic. But on the other way, that's amazing. An amazing form to protect you as a person, to stand out being different. And I really love that people can be different here, and they're not diminished by that. But still, all of those small individuals, they have a strong sense of community, and well, this you can see it. That's why they shout most of the time that they're trying to protect, but the welfare for everyone, and it comes again to this independence. Like everyone's independent to be who they are, but also they have this. They're coming back to their common welfare. They have things like Talbot, for example, which is, I remember when I was invited the first time to a Talbot of a friend, which it could not be like very social. It could be just like, I have my summer cottage that I want to paint it up. And invite all my friends and I put like a bunch of beers, course, and pizza, and then suddenly you have 40 people painting your summer cottage. So you paint the whole thing in 4 hours, and then you have a party, and it's a really way to keep your friends close. This pretty much is in the other regions than the capital. But and then come back to this simplicity, which could be related to, for example, the design and the nature. They are very smooth, very simple, because they like, you know, less is more. And it's also reflected on the culture of how people live their lives in small houses, few clothes. Going back from Mexico or from the United States, you can see that, oh, there is the other things. Less, more is more. Bigger, more, you know, you collect all kind of things in here. People are more detached from material stuff, and they give more value to for example, nature. They prefer to be in a silent place rather than in a noisy place. And yes, to reflect, for example, in the education. And last I got is xenophobia. But also, I also think I have heard a lot of critics about like Finland doesn't have like a more traditions, and they criticize the history because it's a relatively young country. But I've been around for 12 years, and I found a whole variety of traditions and very deep ways and unique ways of enjoying life. And of course, Christmas to me is one very unique. A lot of people tell me that Christmas is quite dull or quite dark. Not only in the sense of the environment, but you know, with the house. But I think I never thought that I would enjoy Christmas. Coming up from Mexico, well, Christmas home, like, you know, parties and everyone shouting. And I still love it when I go there, but when I'm here and I spend Christmas with a Finnish family that I always go to, it's beautiful, the whole quietness and peaceful. And I never thought that I would miss it, actually.
Okay, well, he's kind of my ideal user. He's very proficient. He's been working in Finnish for a while, but he still lacks in, for example, writing. He says he can write a whole paper, but it still is like a 5-year-old putting together sentences. He doesn't have that grammatical understanding of genres, of a bit more complex writing. So in this way, a tool could maybe help him in that way, and myself, obviously. So I know now that we're actually coming to the end of the time. So if you don't want to do this, I'm totally okay with it. Maybe if you want to give me some comments and feedback, I think that I'm much more interested in that.
Yeah. What comes to mind? I read your paper, so I had one question. Because you say here that it's the lack of professional language, or language used in professional contexts, that is the problem. Do you have research data to support that? Because what I've read of research is that it is maybe more the coffee table conversation culture that is lacking for the foreigners in Finland in the working environment. That and then like in experiences with learners, very advanced learners, they most of them that I have spoken to tend to say that it's a rather compact amount of vocabulary that you need for your field, then you can acquire that rather fast, but how to use then the everyday chat thing and in a meeting maybe to say it in the right tone and these kinds of things are way more difficult to master than the professional vocabulary, especially.
Okay.
So this was a surprise for me here. So
I don't have scientific data or papers on that. This is yielded from the student interviews of the previous paper.
Yeah.
These are their concerns as much as mine. Yeah. And of course, I'm not talking about. I know that there's a book for example, Terveydenhoitaja.
Yeah.
And it's very concise. It's very well made. But there's only for that one. I haven't found one for designers or one for lawyers or one for architects. So it would be insane to make one book for everybody. And since the fields are changing and evolving so fast, you can never keep up. I mean, there are some things in healthcare services that don't change. Maybe protocols and okay, new
and
tests,
it's such a huge field also for.
And as you said, if the problem is really mostly the writing in the professional context, then it's not only a question about vocabulary, because that you can find, but about how to use them, what kind of structures to use. If you think about lawyers, for example, it's really a different language, even if you have all the words you need. So it's maybe.
Yes, and there aren't any courses.
No.
I have been teaching these kinds of courses only at the Helsinki University, where for the students of Finnish as their major, foreigners who have Finnish as their major, suomen kieli ja kulttuuri oppiaine, that major, there are courses for that, for writing. So you write texts about different topics, and then you get corrected, and you learn the vocabulary, and you write them again, and so on. This is how you learn writing, right?
Yeah.
Or reading also.
And reading.
But we don't have these kind of courses, do we? On that level.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway, we
lacking.
don't have courses on that level. Simply.
And yes, and also these courses that are offered for immigrants, the kotouttamiskoulutus courses, they're limited to the lower level. I have once in year 2003 I taught one higher level course where we could do this kind of stuff, but there's no money for that. So, but that is a problem, because this is where these highly qualified professionals, they are lacking this.
Yeah, it's a bit of support, and if the platform was to pay for itself, say that, do you know Duolingo? It's this language based on double CAPTCHA. Okay, every time that you log in somewhere and you have to insert a code that is algorithmic generated, like by the computer, so to prove that you're human. Double CAPTCHA, double CAPTCHA also has this word. So you type the word, you type the code, and that word goes into translating something from Wikipedia or something else, and it somehow pays for the program use, so it's free for everybody. If the platform would be free, then it's not about it. It probably would be, for example, if the teacher could cater 2 or 3 groups at a time to the most proficient ones, and then the proficient ones show and teach the less proficient ones. So it's also a lot of, not carrying all the weight of having 20 students online that are very demanding, because you have to read all their texts, but also their peers can read the text.
But it is work intensive for the teacher to prepare the stuff, find it, like if it's a video or a text or whatever, then to make like 3 different versions of a text, like the selkokieli one and then the more advanced one and so on, and then maybe pick out the most important vocabulary and so on. This all takes time, of course, and then you have like the students' text that you some of them you would correct, right, and so on. So that's one thing to think, how much teacher work does this include, or what is that, and student work also. This is very intensive for the student. There would have to be very motivated learners who want to put time into this.
All these are learners with really high agency. Like really high agency. There's another participant here that is actually Romanian, polyglot, and she has just started her entrepreneur business teaching Finnish for foreigners, and of course she's not as proficient, but she knows that she has a level that can help jumpstart others. So that's also, taking a bit of a load on like the amount of beginners that you have. It's overwhelming. I've been in those groups. You have 40 or even bigger groups. It's almost impossible to cater everybody.
But the idea here would be that the students do much of the looking for the material or that, so the teacher wouldn't have to do that.
Exactly.
So the teacher would be there only for really the things that they can't do for each other. So
pretty much, let's say that on the fly, when they are writing, you have maybe one session and they are writing a discussion maybe, because they have to practice spelling and vocabulary. And the teacher's there just supervising. And she clicks in when she notices a typo, she marks it, and if the tool is created as smart as we want, then it would be color coded. Like for
that reminds me of Kung Fu writing. They Do you know?
No.
Okay, now write down
Yes.
Kung Fu writing, because that's something that are most of the English teachers. I think all the English teachers are using some of the Spanish teachers already, and it's exactly what
Like
you are.
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu. That's
Okay.
right. It is
Okay.
Kung Fu writing.
Okay.
So
It's a product that has been developed by people at the Aalto Language Center
Okay.
for
It
correcting
exists.
texts.
In the color coded.
Yes,
Yes.
and you save like the corrections once, and then you just click, like object problem, and then you have
You
your
can
explanation.
give
that you have
explanations
written.
and extra material to.
there,
brilliant.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
brilliant. There is the hyperlink.
Yeah.
If you see the underlined word and then you don't know what is wrong with it, you open the hyperlink. The hyperlink tells you, okay, there's a problem with the object. It's a negative sentence, you have to use partitive case, for example. So it already exists.
Let me talk to them. Because if we
So
could
one
like
problem.
Yeah,
put
you
it to
can
work
link it
there.
there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if it's
that's
copyright.
But it does not exist. It's not language specific, and so we as Finnish teachers haven't used it.
I have tried it in some of the earlier versions.
Yeah, but it requires from the teacher who starts to use that a system that you first, like the first texts are
You
very
create your
work intensive. You have to
buttons.
create your buttons that you then later can use and just click. But the first time you don't have anything to click, you have to write every single
Okay.
thing there. But then,
Once you have done it, you can.
But if you want to, we can give you the name of the person who's responsible.
Because
if you
maybe
wish
if
to.
we
Yeah.
propose some interface design so it's not so labor intensive at the beginning, then maybe he would be interested. Yes, please. Yes.
You want to write down.
here.
Thank you.
Johanna
Okay.
is more, okay.
That saves a lot of time.
It does.
Yes. Especially in the writing, yeah.
But how about then, how to define sort of the objectives? Is that something that the learners would do themselves? They would say, I want to learn this, or would it be something that the teacher would participate in?
I think now that you bring it up that way, because it relates a lot with assessment, like how much are the objectives met. In this case, say I'm the user, because I'm actually profiling on myself. These are my basic needs, and I know that many other people do. So my goal is to write at some point a research paper in Finnish with design, about design. So if that is my objective, then it has to pair with the type of assessment that the teacher who knows about the language dictates. So at some point, I would have to kind of cross-check and that's something else that I think.
Because sometimes, today I asked a group of, not this advanced, but quite advanced students, what would they like to learn for the rest of the course, and it's really difficult for them to say. They just feel they want to learn things and want to get better, but what? And if they can't tell me, it's even harder for me to know what are their needs. They come from different fields, they are in different life situations, and so who can do that?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly the same experience today.
Yeah.
I have 55 students in my class, and they had homework to send me an email telling me what they would like to study because we have the last lesson. One responded. One responded out of 55. And then, I was there in the class and I said, I got one response. So why didn't you send me anything? And then, well, we don't know what we... They didn't know.
Yeah, I think this tool would be for someone with high agency. Like it exactly knows what they want to develop.
Yeah, but you have a
probably
very
who already
advanced...
are in working life, and they have confronted with these problems. They know what.
So it would be something that you would use if you have a sort of already you have a specific need. Then you come with the need already.
Or maybe you can have a kind of lesson first and talk about it in the group and with the teacher. So I think that is a problem of many people. They want to learn, but they don't know what they want, and they expect that the teacher knows. And they just keep everything.
I think the psychology behind profiling yourself in a way pushes you to think, okay, what am I interested in? What would I like to have feed from? If I'm interested in, current events, well, definitely news. If I'm interested in sports, well, I also go to blogs and places that have that type of information. So you're driven to look for the feeding, because of course the whole point is that it's in Finnish. There's no point in having feeds from I don't know, in English, right? So yes, like okay, maybe to have this huge list of Finnish media that you can consume, and then that will drive you other way. Like I've found a lot of bloggers through Helsinki Sanomat, and those are the bloggers about design that I visit. So these things, for example, like just opening the path for someone who has a bit of interest in girls, if he finds what he's looking for, I think. And that's, if we manage to make the profile engine as good, like in categorization and tagging and things like that, that I think.
That's true, because then it's the true interest in the content, and it's not just for language learning.
No, that's the content.
That's what you need to create, because then it's important for one's whole life for somehow, and not only for the language. Like now we need to learn this. And this.
The first time I accessed like blogs and forums in Finnish is because I was desperate of knowing something about my child. I became a mother, and that was very important. So of course that drove me to research language in that, because it wasn't available in English. It was about päiväkotis and things like that, so I had to read it in Finnish, and that pushes you. And then, well, you join the group, and then you're with the parents, and then
and then it comes every ping. Maybe you click once, and then
yes, and one drives to the other, and then you're in Kirpis and web pages and things like that. And but one thing drives to another. That's kind of the interesting phenomena of social media, and
maybe also the interaction between the people there and with the teacher. Sometimes maybe it's hard for you to, you have sort of feeling that I need something like this, but you don't really know what to look for and where to look for. So maybe someone else can give you some hints, or then if you try to explain that to someone, then it makes your ideas clearer.
Yes, and of course this role of the teacher is still somewhat vaguely defined, because we do need native speakers in order to correct us, because we can't do it on our own. But does it have to be necessarily, for example, a Finnish teacher? If it's a työkaveri?
That's for many things here it would be a lot more useful than a Finnish teacher, because if you want to learn something specific for your job, the Finnish teacher wouldn't know where to look for, what kind of material or what kind of language.
So if it's related to your own field, say in my community, I'm the only foreign speaker, I'm the only foreigner in my research group. So when they present in Finnish, I listen, I follow in Finnish. I can ask questions, but I'm not prepared for the answers. And of course, when I present, everybody complies, and I do it in English. But if I were to make a trade-off, for example, for the most time-consuming things, which are proofreading, and we are always looking for someone to read our papers because we need. Okay, I can do that in English easy. So you answer this question for me in the platform, log in and do that. Or if you want to learn Spanish, if this platform could work both ways, then okay, you learn Spanish, you teach me some cultural insights, like explain what this phrase means, for example, or how can I write this better, or help me with my email to, I don't know, some authority that I want to ask money from, which is very common. And I will read your paper.
That would be the ideal situation, and as you said in the beginning, you need something to trade with. You can't just ask people always to help you. But then of course maybe there are different situations. What do people have to trade? I mean, Spanish, many people want to learn Spanish, but if your mother tongue is something that no one wants to learn, then you have maybe less to offer.
Yes, I guess if you speak Indonesian, then like maybe you might find not many enthusiasts, but maybe one.
One is enough.
One thing that pops to mind now, it's something quite different, but you have the dictionary tool there. Would it be useful to have like a phrase tool also? Like how to begin a letter, or how to end an email, so you could trade, like, I saw this in an email from a colleague, I'm starting to use this now. Like I learned different foreign languages also, like copying like what the person sent in the previous letter, so I'll put that one. Learning phrases also.
And expressions
Phrases
and
and
structures, because it's not about, as we said,
phrases and structure back.
it's not just about words, but also
that's a little bit
how
hard
to
to
put this.
categorize that
Yeah,
though,
it is,
but but that would be useful.
Yeah, and structure. It's phrases and structure back, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, learning chunks.
Learning chunks.
I don't know how you can then organize that into something that would be easy to use. Because you could have the same thing, sort of an information bank for cultural knowledge also that you could share. But how do you organize it then? It's easy with words, alphabet, but
well, it might work like that, just alphabetically. There is something you probably know, because one of the teachers from the language bank introduced us to it. This phrase bank. Yeah, is it for papers? Like, how do you introduce data? Like these phrases already in chunks. So if you're starting your paper, the data shows that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And depending on what you're doing, reporting or concluding or introducing, and then that could actually work like that.
And if you can't categorize it, it could be also like a what is that? Like a news feed type of thing that you can click open. Did somebody put something interesting in today that you could just scroll into and look into that? You should look into that in Facebook. I'm in the group. Maybe you're also. What is it called? Finnish phrase of the day or something like that. It's a group and it's anything. It's something who does this, and it's really okay what they do. It doesn't come every day, I think, or I don't get it every day. You get the Facebook päivitys. I do this in Finnish, obviously. And it's some phrase like uida avannossa. It's normally not anything culture related. It's just some phrase, and then they explain what it is and how the construction is made, the whole structure. You should work together with them. Somebody's doing this already. And then the other one is Puhutaan Suomea. It's a magazine also, but I think they're doing something good.
Puhutaan Suomea.
Is this first one learn useless Finnish or something like that?
Yeah, there's that one too. Now I'm not sure which one. I know that there's these. Learn useless Finnish. That's true. It might be that one too, but it's done well. Out of the looking at it as a Finnish teacher, it's done very well. I can recommend to any student. Often the terms are very difficult, so it's not for beginners. So it would be this level. So it's just a random word, and what I was thinking there, so anybody could, I'm reading this article in my field, architecture or whatever, I put this in, I found this very interesting phrase, and you can use it this way in the feed, and then somebody would click and see, and he's not probably interested in architecture, but this structure might be useful for somebody else.
Somewhere else.
Hey, look, they say this so funnily, it would turn into this way, so, did you know that the Finns say blah, 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 and it might be fun and interesting, you could kind of, if you have a lazy day, so you're just scrolling that instead of doing some real work, but you still learn something. Maybe.
If you remember, if it made you laugh, you will remember.
Yes, exactly.
But what about the understanding? It requires the people to understand very complex structures.
But if someone has sort of
something
sorted
understood
out with
the idea would be that you explain. So like that. You need rules for that. What you should check, put, what you put in there and how you. But then, of course, everything does not have to be so controlled, because if it would be a Facebook thing that a foreigner in their Facebook private profile puts out, so, hey, I saw this funny structure in Finnish, they say like this, if I understood correctly, it means blah, 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 and then they put this ending, so it makes it to me and this and this. And then maybe other foreigners living in Finland would comment, oh really, do they? Are you sure it's like this? So it would develop like this as a conversation.
And a cascade.
And then it would be eventually learning then and finding out the right.
Spillovers, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. No.
Yeah, that all works. Wow. Any other suggestions?
Hey, Pia, one more idea. So earlier when we talked about the news and the difficulty of understanding very compact content there. So news, like something that happens in the world now, is available in any language. So you could have a feature of like watch the news first in your language about this, like there was earthquakes there and there. Then you watch it in your language first. You know what happened. Then you watch it in Finnish. So you know what they are talking about, and then you watch it in Finnish.
You're much more attuned maybe to that word.
That word can guess many of the words.
And then maybe like or even first watch it in your language, make a word list in your language, which were the keywords you need to know to understand this. You can do it easily in your language. And then check, do you know these words in Finnish? If not, find them, then watch it in Finnish. And the teacher didn't do anything.
We are trying to make ourselves useless.
But we also work other way around. If you first read it in Finnish and like you think that okay, this might mean this and that, and then
you
can check.
Exactly. Yes. You can take the easy way on the lazy day,
and
then you take the hard way.
Well, that would be good if it could be done either way. So people are different, and days are different.
Wow, all these are really very good. Very good and very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, all those abstracts. If you like what I did the other day, I read the abstract of one PhD thesis, and I read it in Finnish and in English, and it was really like a perfect match.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So.
That's good because sometimes reading English abstracts is really hard work because
Yes,
it's
that's
so compact language and all the terminology and
Yes,
so on.
but then you read it in Finnish and then it's the similar.
Yeah, there's something
thing.
to professional texts that exist parallel already. Nobody needs to translate. Very good.
Okay.
Are we done?
Yes, if you have any concluding remarks or suggestions or complaints or anything.
No, there's one word, talkoot. It is with two O's.
Oh my god.
It's okay. But
Well, there you
there's
go.
a word
That's my
we are very bad. No, it's okay.
There were several actually.
Many?
It's okay.
But we understand them.
Yeah, we understand.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, I thank you very much.
You can see that you have done them.
Yes,
Anyway,
I
they're
can
really
see
interesting
them.
ideas. I mean, I'm sure we would have more comments, but maybe I don't know.
Look, please,
when
yes.
it
Feel free
develops,
to send me any
yeah,
emails
yeah,
if you
yeah.
think you want to share
And
anything.
it's kind of
please do.
first you orientate somehow,
Yeah.
then your mind starts working. I already,
exactly.
I think I learned a lot from this session.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I
It
appreciate
was
your
very,
time.
very fruitful and useful.
I hope to see you again.
Yeah,
Maybe with
sure.
something more developed and share it and
Sure.
get your comments and
And
maybe
if you have
your-
some specific points that you want to discuss with someone, feel free to.
So if you
contact
want
us.
us to try something,
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
we
When
could try something.
because I'm
give
doing
feedback.
the low tech right now. Well, the cheap version. It's
Yeah.
WordPress with all the plugins available.
Yeah.
And well, I'm still figuring out. But if that more or less is sort of a prototype that we can tweak a bit more, like further.
Yeah.
And the whole point is that it doesn't have to cost that much because I mean to really develop a software as such, it takes like thousands of euros, which nobody's going to give me.
Yeah.
So I need to do this with open source and as much free stuff available
Right.
and help with the community. If the community is into it and is willing to participate, then I think we can actually make make something that's not so expensive. Like it's actually doable.
Yeah. Probably the tools are already more or less they are there.
I've seen something like it here or there, and like
Yeah.
intelligent tools for language that are in different places.
Yeah,
They're
so
never
you
put
just
in
have
the
to-
same place.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we manage to tailor for that, we might get something.
Yeah, there are always some problems.
Yeah, yeah. But well,
Hopefully you can.
yeah, I don't
do
want to.
something
Yeah, and
better.
I don't want to have a huge software for graduation. I want to have a prototype which allows me to graduate and then do a postdoctoral
Yeah.
on that. Yeah. So yeah, to develop a lifetime work with this, and if we manage it, I mean, time is not my problem at the moment. So it's little by little, and let's do it good, and one feature at a time, and if it works, and then evolves, and hopefully, yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Keep your
I have a baby. Oh, and now I.
Tanya, did you try to call me earlier? No, because somebody tried to call me.
I did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, and then you called me back. and
Okei,
then I
onko se
called you
numero
back.
sitten
Someone who private. Ei kun se on mun private.
Mutta jos teillä on jotain kysymyksiä.
Kato nyt, onko se se.
Yhtä olen ajatellut.
Joo.
Tässä ei ole ennen
Ajatus
kuin
jotain,
täytyy aikata.
lähetetään tekstiviesti tänne.
Tämä oli ihan uusi juttu mulle, kun mä en ollut tietysti lukenut sitä sun mitään sun tekstiä enkä muuta.
Mutta
Tää oli vähän
aika monta juttuja on inspired.
Se on